And has the THAAD battery arrived, and is it now fully integrated with Israel's air defense systems?
So you saw our statement earlier in the week that troops have begun to arrive in Israel, and the components have begun to arrive in Israel. It's going to be fully operations capable in the near future. I'm not going to get into the specific dates for operation security. I will say that it has been integrated into the Israeli air defense as well as our broader U.S. Efforts, regionally to support the defense of Israel.
So you think Navy destroyers possibly, or swap data with the Navy destroyers in the Eastern Med for air defense and kind of provide an umbrella?
So the way it works is from a theater standpoint. The U.S. works closely with Israel and other partners when it comes to things like air defense to coordinate, to exchange information to ensure that we have a holistic picture and can respond to contingencies throughout the area of responsibility, to include supporting the defense of Israel. Thanks. Let me go to John, and then I'll go to Charlie. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, Gerald. This administration has been saying that Hamas have been largely destroyed, and that's why Israel can't agree to a ceasefire. And today the Vice President said that Hamas have been decimated. Would you say to your Israeli counterparts, to the Israeli government, that if they made the decision to agree to a ceasefire today, especially after today's development, that wouldn't be a silly decision militarily, that they can trust that decision?
Well, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I'm not going to provide military-to-military advice from the podium to our Israeli counterparts. To your point, Hamas has been incredibly degraded, as evidenced by the killing of their leader, a significant number of their forces, and certainly do not resemble anything close to what they were on October 7, or the ability to conduct the kinds of operations we saw them. So I'll leave it to the Israelis to talk about their plans as it relates to Hamas. But as I highlighted earlier, and as the president highlighted in his statement, the killing of and the death of Sinwar certainly does present an opportunity, and I'll just leave it there.
Can I just one quick follow-up? So as far as I understand, this administration thinks that it makes sense right now to agree to a ceasefire. That's pretty clear, I guess.
Again, I'm Department of Defense, so broadly speaking, we absolutely support a ceasefire so that we can ensure that humanitarian assistance is getting into Gaza, that the Palestinian people can see a restoration of security and stability. But we also recognize the threat that Hamas has posed to Israel. And so we'll continue to consult with Israel and our partners in the region, but obviously want to see a ceasefire as soon as possible. And most importantly, the release of the hostages that continue to be held by Hamas. Charlie.
Thanks, General. Sinwar had American blood on his hands. And the Vice President was willing to go a little bit further than you will from there, saying American special operations and intelligence personnel have worked closely with their Israeli counterparts to locate and track Sinwar. He's dead now, so we're not at risk of foiling any sort of intelligence around that. But are you not willing to give us an idea?
I'm not sure what I said that was contrary to that. What I was asked was there direct U.S. involvement in this particular Israeli operation, and I said no.
Did U.S. Special Forces or intelligence know where Sinwar was when this happened?
Again, I'm not going to get into intelligence. What I'm telling you is this was an Israeli operation and that we've been sharing information and intelligence in support of hostage recovery efforts and the tracking of these leaders who have been holding hostages, to include Americans. And so, in so much as it's helped to inform Israeli operations in general, writ large, certainly it has played a role. But in terms of this particular, what happened today or last night, again,
it's an important question.
And I just answered it. So let me go on to Joseph.
Thanks. I know you said the Secretary spoke to his Israeli counterpart before the Sinwar's death was confirmed, but did the Secretary, because as far as we know, you guys haven't received a day after plan from the Israelis in Gaza yet, is that correct?
Again, from a Department of Defense standpoint, we're continuing to talk with our Israeli counterparts in terms of what that would look like. Certainly, it will be a complex undertaking, but more to follow on that.
And then just to follow up on that, does the department think there's anything more to be done militarily in Gaza from the Israeli point of view?
So that's really a question for the Israelis. Again, I think we've been pretty clear that we want to see a ceasefire. We want to see a restoration of a significant flow of humanitarian assistance into Gaza. We want to ensure, though, that Hamas is not in a position to conduct the kinds of attacks that it did on October 7th. Certainly, they are, down for the count in terms of their leader. But again, I'll defer to the Israelis to talk about their comfort level on that.
Quick last one. What's the secretary going to do in the Vatican? I think he's got that on the last part of his trip.
He's got an official visit, the Vatican City. Again, we'll have a readout of that when he visits there. So we go to Wafa. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, General. Over the years, Hamas has shown resilience with replacing leaders when they were killed. So what's different now? Why the assessment within this administration that the killing of Sinwar would remove a significant obstacle in Gaza?
Well, I mean, as you highlight, and this is always a challenge with terrorist organizations, is that you remove the head and another is quickly replaces. So I'm certain that's something that the Israelis will continue to keep an eye on, as will we. But I also don't think you can discount the significance, again, from a counterterrorism standpoint, the role that Sinwar has played in leading this organization, also as the architect, so to speak, of the October 7 Hamas attack against Israel. It's significant that he's been taken off the battlefield. Let me go to the phone here real quick. Dan Lamoth, Washington Post.
General, thanks for your time. I wanted to get your assessment. Does the Pentagon have an assessment, and maybe would be a better way to put it, of whether with the death of Sinwar, whether this is a particularly dangerous time for U.S. troops in the region, whether you anticipate any kind of retaliation by any of the militias or Iran or anything as a result?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I can't predict the future, and I'm not going to speculate. I mean, we already know that the Middle East is in a very tense situation right now and have taken significant steps to ensure that our forces that are in the region, as well as our citizens, are protected. And so, as we always do, we'll continue to keep our head on a swivel, protect our forces, support the defense of Israel, and be ready to respond to any variety of contingencies should they arise. Let me go to Phil Stewart, Reuters.
Yeah, hi. So sorry to go over this again, but I'm a little confused. I thought Sinwar was a particularly vexing target for intelligence, for the intelligence community. And the comments today suggest that you did have a fix on him at some point, and that you may have contributed to the intelligence picture that that led to this operation without U.S. support. So could you just explain? Did U.S. intelligence then? Are you suggesting that U.S. intelligence had a fix on Sinwar?
What I'm suggesting, Phil, is that just to be crystal clear, this was an Israeli operation. There was no U.S. forces directly involved. The United States has helped contribute information and intelligence as it relates to hostage recovery and the tracking and locating of Hamas leaders who have been responsible for holding hostages. And so certainly that contributes in general to the picture. But again, this was an Israeli operation, and I would refer you to them to talk about the details of how the operation went down.